Yeah, it's I do a lot of relationship training, and the research says that if you really want to build relational capital, which is exactly what we're talking about here, that you have to have 5 to 20 more positives for every negative. What most bosses don't realize is they walk around and they wonder why they don't have any influence with their people. It's because they're always making withdrawals and no deposits. So this one is huge. And when I was in that dark season, I I didn't feel like noticing the positives. I literally kind of felt like the victim in the situation. And I'm sure you've never been here, but my thought was, if these friggin' people would just do their friggin' job, then my friggin' job would be so much friggin' easier, and I was really blaming them for not stepping up and doing their job. And so what I noticed was I had to change my attitude. And this little strategy, I know it sounds super silly, but it was incredibly effective. I would put a penny in my shoe. And when I would walk into a restaurant, my foot would feel that penny and my brain would switch over to notice the positives, because I was usually that gotcha guy. I would walk in and notice all the negatives. Hey, all the trash on the lot, when are you going to do the floors right? That sort of thing. But the penny just reminded me was to focus on the positives. And it was a very helpful tool. So the next one is lead with influence, not power. Again, this is where influence is really all about relational capital. And what we know through the research is that when we look at turnover is really the cancer in the restaurant industry that just kills you, absolutely. And probably kills you in the construction business too. But research tells us that people don't quit companies, they quit people. And back in the 70s and 80s, there was a couple management theories around that were very prevalent. They were by Douglas McGregor. And I remember sitting in management class hearing these theories, thinking, I don't agree with these options, but the options were my instructor was, I really liked him. And so I didn't argue with him because I didn't have the confidence at the time to do that. But the two theories were simply theory X, which says that people really don't want to work. So you got to stay on their butt 24/7. These are my words. You got to monitor them, keep an eye on them, kind of micromanage them. Otherwise, if you let up for just a second, then they're going to goof off and slip up. And that was the leader that I had, at the time when I wrote the book. That was theory X. And I heard that and I was like, that doesn't sound like a good theory. Theory Y is basically where you inherently believe people want to do a good job. We just need to give them the tools, the space, the encouragement to do that job. And that was absolutely critical for me because I had 5 restaurants. I couldn't watch people 24/7. I needed them to do their job and do it well while I wasn't there. And so that's why it was critical that I started leading with influence and not power, and it's actually why I was so valuable to the person I worked for, because he was the power guy and that caused turnover. So leading with influence is really where you can get people to do things because they want to do a great job, versus with power where they feel like they have to. And I love what Dwight Eisenhower says. He said, leadership is the art of getting someone else to do something you want him to do because he wants to do it. Great leaders, I think, coach people to the goal line. And when you're a good influencer, that ripples through the entire organization. I was invited to a small group leadership thing at Chick-fil-A one time, which was kind of weird because I was a Sonic guy. And Truett Cathy was speaking, the founder of Chick-fil-A. And this was years ago, not now. It's years. Imagine this is years ago. And he was just having a conversation. And he said, I think it's not enough when somebody asks for ketchup, to say, sure, no problem. He said, I think we should say, it's my pleasure. And I'm just sitting there, thinking, that's cool. No big deal. Scroll ahead 2 months. I'm at Chick-fil-A. And I said, hey, can I have some ketchup? And the person behind the counter said, it's my pleasure. And all of a sudden the dots connected. And I saw the founder, the CEO had this influence that trickled all the way down to the frontline employee who's actually serving the customers. And I thought that's what real influence is when you have that kind of influence over people and over a company and even over the public. I mean, all of us are familiar with that phrase pretty much. I mean, I was, a couple of weeks after that, I was sitting at home with my grandson, and I said, "Hey, Max, can you hand me the TV remote?" And he said, "It's my pleasure." And I'm like, "Dude, you got to stop going to Chick-fil-A so much. Your mom's got to take you somewhere else." So it's just fun that, the behaviors that we have actually do, really do influence people. One of the things that I've kind of equated this to today with the work that I do is really kind of the theory X, theory Y kind of has really resonated more with coach and manager. And it's just some new thoughts that I'm having that I think are more accurate in this analysis. And I just think the coaching, first of all, the coaching stuff is taking the business world by storm because it works. And one couple examples of what it might look like, a manager is going to come up to a employee and say, "Hey, is this project on time?" You're going to ask them a yes or no question usually, and if you're leading with power, you're always going to get the yes answer. Even if the answer is truly no, you may get the yes answer just because they're going to try to break it to you when you're not standing in front of them at a later date. But asking yes or no questions, you learn nothing. What a coach would do in that situation, instead of saying, "Hey, are you going to be on time?" They would ask what we like to call powerful questions. So a coach kind of slash influence manager or influencer would say something like, "So tell me about the barriers you're struggling with to hit this timeline." So it's a much better question, because what that does is, first of all, you find out whether the project's going to truly be on time. But then as as their supervisor, you can hear what their barriers are. And that gives you coaching opportunities. That gives you training opportunities. You're not there to solve their problem, but you can give them advice on how to work through those barriers through your experience. So I just think it's a great training experience when we start using this coaching influence with our folks, because it's just truly a partnership where we help them achieve goals and their objectives. Now, let me be really clear that there's times when I walk into a restaurant and we're going through a full-blown Friday night rush. I'm stepping into manager mode. I'm managing crisis. There's times when you manage crisis, but that shouldn't be your primary leadership style. Coaching, influencing should be your major style, because if you manage with that kind of that theory X, basically it burns out your people, and it even burns you out because you're always focused on the negative. So this one is always kind of interesting. It's called Love Them First. Now, let me qualify that when I talk about love, the English language uses love basically with an emotional type love. The Greeks actually have multiple words for love, and they have one word that's called agape love. And that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about, loving your employees, sexual harassment, that whole thing. We're talking about agape love. And what agape means is it means treating people with respect and high regard. And the reason this one was really important for me was, again, the intellectual capital that you gain with people is just irreplaceable sometimes. And the last thing I need them is to lose, I need them to quit, or I need to lose them because of a bad relationship. So I was having a little bit of a turnover issue in one of the restaurants I was running. And what I realized was that after they got to know me, after they spent some time with me and spent some time on the team, they really didn't quit. They felt comfortable, they felt empowered, and so they would stay with the team for quite a while. But my turnover was happening in that first 30-day period before we could build any kind of lasting relationship. And so what I started to think about was, okay, so I'm losing them in the 30 days. How can I shrink that time? That 30 days to maybe down to 2 weeks. where they feel like they're valued, they feel like their boss has their back kind of thing. And I realized that when two people kind of, when they start a relationship, a business relationship, for sure, that there's some uncertainty, there's some past baggage, and so there's this wall that you have to kind of break down between the two people before they determine whether there's any trust in this relationship. And so I realized there was the wall. They had a wall, part of the wall, and I had part of the wall. So what this principle did for me was I decided to knock down my side of the wall. That I decided, and this, again, this is a tough one because we all carry a lot of baggage in past relationships, and it's easy to bring that baggage into current relationships. But what I decided to do was when somebody came to work for me, I was going to see them as pre-great, that I was going to knock down my side of the wall and see them as pre-great. And they started to notice that I was legit from the early days that they came to work for me. And I truly was able to reduce that turnover in a very significant way, where it was, by an industry standards, it was phenomenal. We just lost very, very few people. And I got this one. This one made a huge difference for me. But I had a really hard time training people to understand this one. I had managers that really struggled with turnover, and they really couldn't seem to get this one. And I got it, because you've had this same experience. I've got a restaurant manager that had a server. He hires her, and she comes in, and 2 weeks later she quits. Hires another one, 2 weeks later she quits. Hires another one, 2 weeks later they quit. Hire a third one. They're 30 minutes late. What do they think? Well, I guess they quit too, just like the others. See what you just did? You just lumped that person's behavior into the behaviors of the previous three people that they don't even know. And really all the information that you have is that the person's 30 minutes late. You don't realize they told the assistant manager last night that they were going to be a little late because they had to drop their kid off, and the person forgot to tell you. But the challenge is not bringing that baggage into that current relationship. And so I want you to think about the people that come to work for you, or maybe it's a brand new coworker. How can you make them feel more connected quicker? So I think that's kind of our, I love this phrase too. If you have love, you don't need anything else. And if you don't have love, it really doesn't matter what else you have. So in business, I think today, you really got to care about people. If you don't care about people, life is going to be very hard for you. I don't know how to say that nicely. If you truly don't care about people, life is going to be hard for you, because you can't fake this. If you genuinely care about them, they're going to get it. And if you genuinely are fake, they're going to get that too. So let's, how can you connect, or maybe somebody gets transferred to you or transfer your department? What are some ways that you could connect faster with them so they felt more comfortable? Because again, you've all been the new person. How would we make them feel more comfortable on your team faster? What are some strategies you could do? I'll let Natalie watch for answers.
Get to know them as people without invading their privacy. One was from Manjeev.
Very good.
Chibo says, ask questions, listen, and there's a bunch of them coming in. Catherine, lots of communication, email, calls, in person. Glenn Davidson, stay engaged so that you have, oops, it's going faster than I can read. Stay engaged, show that you care, take the time for them, but ask about their family, names of children, etc. Lisa, take the initiative to get to know them. Manjeev, be open about yourself. Own your own weaknesses. Paul, invite them to lunch.
Yeah, all those are great, and you know what's kind of irritating about this. I've worked in several, industries as kind of, teaching this kind of content. And what was really frustrating was that they were looking for those big, they wanted to write a big check to solve the disengagement problem. Basically, 70% of Americans are disengaged at work. And Gallup's been doing that study for basically 40 years, and the number has not moved. 30% of people really don't like their job, really aren't punched in mentally, and yet the solution is everything that we're talking about. And what's really frustrating to me is it costs nothing, but people just won't take the time or the effort. And what you just described is just going to take a little effort to do those things. The one thing that I'll mention is that you mentioned be interested in their personal lives. We get pushback and say, well, you can't be involved in their personal lives. If you're a leader for about 5 minutes, you figure out real quick you are very involved in their personal life. If they're having problems at home, they're having problems at work. There is no way to separate. There is no work life and personal life. There's just life, and it's messy. And so I'm not saying you get into people's drama. That's not what I'm saying here at all. But what I've also found is that if you go through a tough season with somebody, if their kid has gone kind of stupid or they're going through a divorce, if you can at least be there, let them know that you're there, as a person that cares about them as a human, that person will come out on the other side with more loyalty than you could ever pay them. So I would encourage you to, if somebody is struggling, to lift them up, not just necessarily cast them off. The other thing is the simple stuff is just be interested in what they're interested in. If, the kid thing was huge that you guys just mentioned. People always want to talk about their kids and their grandkids. So know those kids' names, be interested in what they're interested in. And if they're rebuilding a 57 Chevy, when you see that person, you walk in and say, hey man, how's the Chevy coming? What are you going to do with that Chevy when you're done fixing it up? Be interested in what they're interested in. That's how we build relationships, not only in life, but on the job. So it's a great way to, show them that you care about them as not only a person, but, as a coworker too. So any questions, Natalie? Did you see any questions in that?
Nope, just a couple more comments. Accept them as they are, value them and their contribution. Let them know right away that you're open to helping them do their job, and be empathetic, because I know how first months can be at a new job.
Yeah, it's you guys probably have the same thing when you start a new project. Our work is so crazy. It literally took me when I stopped running Sonics and came to work for the organization I work for now, it took me a year to figure out what we did. So you felt lost for literally 12 months, which is a really long period of time. And they would give you manual after manual, read this, and it'll tell you kind of what we do. And so just having somebody there to encourage you to get through that season, I think would be a really helpful thing. So, all right, this one is really the final one, and I think it just kind of wraps all of them up together. And it's make them feel a part of something special. And I think this one just speaks to our culture right now. This COVID thing has really wreaked havoc on so many people that they feel so isolated. The people that are least likely to have a best friend in our culture are pastors and business leaders. That they just feel isolated. And so, and when I talk about this subject, a lot of times people always look down at the people, or they always look up. Well, I wish my boss would do this. I wish my boss would do this. They never look inside and down like, hey, am I doing this for my people? And the one thing that they never do is they never look at their boss and say, hey, when was the last time you told your boss he did a great job? When was the last time you really tried to connect with your boss? When was the last time you took the effort to build that relationship in a positive way? So this one I discovered at a convention, and it was a Sonic convention. And, I'd gone to that convention, and it was so big that they didn't give out awards anymore because it was just too many people there. So what they did was they found the people that had gotten like the best sales increase award, the best food cost award, the best award, and they videotaped them and asked them, well, how were you able to do this? And so I picked up real quick that they were doing this with all these high achievers in the Sonic world. So what I thought would be kind of fun is I started watching those and I started looking for patterns. I'm always looking for best practices. There's always exceptions, but boy, you can find best practices. That's what's really sweet. So I started looking for patterns. What were some patterns all these high achievers had? Well, I didn't notice any kind of race pattern. I didn't notice any kind of gender pattern. I didn't notice any kind of age pattern. But about after the third or fourth one, I heard a very familiar phrase being repeated over and over and over. And that was family. They would say things like, you know what, my crew is like my kids. I feel like I'm their life coach. I feel like this is my family. They kept saying that they looked at their crew as their family. And I realized, you know what, that one store that I was able to really turn the turnover thing around, I realized that's exactly what we did, because it's really hard to make somebody feel special about flipping hamburgers. I mean, it's just not a glamorous job, but you can make them feel special by being part of a Sonic family. When they came into the business that we ran, they felt like they were stepping in and they were becoming part of our family. And so many people have such dysfunction in their lives, they crave that. I think this one is huge, and I get a sense, talking to Glenn, that you guys do this, that, they don't feel special because of flipping burgers. They feel special because they're part of the Sonic family. Your people feel special because they're part of the ECC family, and in any way we can do, anything we can do to enhance that just is golden, not only for us, but also for our employees. Oh, I like that. The most dangerous thing is making copies of yourself. Yeah, I mean, it's what was the phrase I saw recently? Be yourself. Everybody else is taken. That we do a lot of personality assessments, and we stress really fast that if everybody was the same the same personality trait as you, somebody isn't needed. We need all different types of people on the team to make the team the best it can be. And I do love this from Phil Jackson. It says the strength of a team is each individual member, and the strength of each individual member is the team. So just kind of wrap it up with this question. How would you like to have a boss that really made you feel appreciated? How'd you like to have a boss that really saw your potential and coached you to that full potential? How'd you like to have a boss that led you with influence and empowered you? How'd you like to have a boss that you realized not only cared about you, but cared about your family, cared about your career? How'd you like to have a boss that really made you feel a part of something special? As we all agree, that would be awesome. The only thing better than having a boss like that is being a boss like that. That life is just really difficult out there for so many people, and the world is absolutely upside down and crazy. And I realize you can't change the world, but with your influence, with your encouragement, you can change your world one person at a time. And that wraps it up for me. I really appreciate you guys letting me pour into you a little bit. And if you have any questions, like I say, you can email, or if there's any questions in chat. I do have a few questions and we want to talk about them for a couple minutes. What would loving them first look like for you? I
have a comment here from Bud. When Keith Richards was asked who was a better guitar player, him or Ron Woods, his answer was, well, we are both pretty lousy, but together we are better than 10. Julietta, I do have that, and is why Marquez has received a promotion.
So yeah, I mean, I just would encourage you to kind of look at your lives because again, people are um, the people that work for you. There's, when you teach the relational stuff for so long, you just realize there's so much heartache out there. 50% of them are their marriages are on their rocks. You wonder, why they can't perform at a level that you would like them to. Well, they go home to chaos, and so if you can be that light of hope, in their crazy world, it just creates all kind of loyalty.
I do want to give just a quick minute for Glenn. I know he has a few words.
I mean, wow, what a presentation. I thought I was a better manager than what I am, to be honest with you. So I learned a lot from the message. I read this book many, many years ago, and I've shared this with many other people. But a segue into getting Jack here, I listened to Rob Test. I don't know Rob Test personally. I just know him from videos and presentations and meetings and stuff. But he did a presentation a couple months ago. And what I got out of that presentation was, our business is really about, our leadership skills, how we treat people, and about resources. We often say that, we look at people as technical skills, technical knowledge, what does their resume look like? And at the end of the day, it's about people. And I think the message is it's about people. And the byproduct from those relationships and resources is successful projects. And I think that's where we're at. Someone put up, I love our culture within ECC, and hell yeah, I mean, I love the culture too. And we've gone a long ways in the last 5 years. And if that statement right there doesn't give you goosebumps, if you've been here during that period, I don't know what would. But we've gone a long ways, and thank God for the leaders of this company of where we've taken it in the last 5 years. I'm sure there's some questions, but in closing, I want to state this. Jack happens to be married to my sister. He's a great father of 3, great Christian, and I'm honored to be his brother-in-law. So, Jack, I appreciate the presentation, and I think I would encourage everybody to go read this book. Thank you.
Natalie, may I say a few words?
Of course.
So I was with Glenn Davidson in Washington, D.C. about 3 weeks ago, and he was talking about this book. So I went online to try to buy one on Amazon, and he said, hold on a second, I'll give you one. He did. And I brought it back, and I read it over the weekend a couple of weeks ago. But I tried to do it the right way, read just the first part and let it soak in for a few hours, and then go to the second one. It's a quick read. And my wife saw me reading it, and she asked, what are you reading? And she's a doctor, she works at a university. And I showed her what it was. Now she's got it, and she was going to do the same, just read through it. I said, read one part and wait, a few hours or a couple of days. So she's, I think, on the 3rd or 4th insight, the lesson of the book. So great book, Jack. Really, really great.
Thank you. And it's very valuable in the healthcare industry. There's a lot of people challenges in the healthcare industry.
I think the message here is Glenn, that we really need you to have your sister on this call because she's the one that's making YouTube look so good.
That's true. Yeah, she's kind of the boss of everybody.
Yeah, we got the wrong 2 people here.
She does this, and she's actually the one flipping these houses, not me. I just find them and sell them. She flips them, but she uses this stuff. She's been around me so long. She uses all this relational stuff, and she gets these people to show up. I mean, the market's really tough for, contractors and subs right now. And so she gets them to show up and work their butts off. I mean, it's amazing watching her, just use these strategies in her little world, and she just crushes it.
Well, good. Well, let her know she's done a great job training the 2 of you. You guys are both great examples of and good talking heads.
Thank you, Bob.
Jack, we really appreciate your time. I know we're under a time constraint for you. And so what I'll just say is if I posted the book, if you guys are interested, I'll also order a couple for our leadership libraries and the different locations that we have those. So feel free to just grab that copy off the shelf if you need. But thank you so much. I'll be providing your information, and Jack said he's open to questions afterwards. He does apologize he has to leave, but we so appreciate you just taking the time today, and this stuff we can use in our lives and our jobs and beyond. So thank you so much.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. Have a great day.
All right. Bye,
Bye-bye.
Jack.